Hey, hello friends. Thank you for joining me today. My name's Dan. Once again, I forgot my clapper and I put the wrong number on YouTube. It's Daily Art Adventure 663. I know this matters a lot. I'll edit that later and fix it later, but here we are. Daily Art Adventure 663. I am once again in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, my hometown for the last 30 years, and finishing the painting that I started yesterday evening. Thereby proving that something has changed. I want to say for decades. That's a slight exaggeration. For a decade and a half, that's not an exaggeration, I would always finish a painting, you know, in an evening. So either I've slowed down and gotten lazy, which I refuse to admit, or I've gotten better. And I think that is the case. So my style has changed. I'm more finicky than I used to be. By the way, I don't know how many of you have heard me say this before, but 15 years ago, 2004, when I launched into my plein air painting career, my fine arts career. Now, again, I don't want to be misleading. Don't hear from that I started being an artist 15 years ago. No, that that would be quite erroneous. I'd been a professional illustrator and artist of all sorts for decades before that. So, okay. Anyway, but I was making a shift from fine art, from illustration to fine art. Anyway, and I made a very conscious decision. I remember literally sitting down and figuratively putting my chin on my hands. I don't remember if I did that literally or not. And thinking, all right, which will make me the better artist? Because after years of illustration, you can imagine, I had the capacity, the capability of doing some very fine painting. I was, after all, a fairly successful illustrator, so I could paint any subject in any medium just about. And I asked myself the question, what will make me the better painter? And I think the number that I came up with most often, ironically, was 15 years. Like, what will make me the better painter in 15 years? So here I am, 15 years later. Would it be to create masterpieces? At the time, I was quite taken with, I'll call it the William Bouguereau style of painting. And I had done one very fine copy of a Bouguereau. And it sounds like I'm being funny or arrogant, but no, I actually proved my copy of Bouguereau's. I'm not saying, oh, no, don't get me wrong, I'm not better than he is. But the one painting that I copied, yeah, I made a few improvements. That's true. Anyway, so I could have gone, anyway, I could have gone any one of many different directions. And I thought at the time, I said, you know, I think if I paint essentially as fast as I can and produce, 200 paintings a year, as opposed to producing masterpieces and doing 30 paintings a year, I think the first option will make me the better painter in 15 years. So that, in fact, is what I did. So, and I think it was a correct choice. So if there's any young people listening to me, there's actually a very specific reason for that dynamic, that if you paint fast, you'll improve fast. One of the primary reasons is that in the world of painting, most of the good decisions as well as the bad decisions that you make as a painter on any given painting, most of the good and bad decisions are made in the very, very, very early stages of the painting process. Unlike some students might think that what makes a painting good is all the super duper details at the end. That is emphatically not the case. I think you all know that, but I'm just stating the obvious. So if you want to improve quickly as an artist, just do the beginnings of all your paintings. I don't really mean that literally, but it is in the early stages is when either you're making great decisions or terrible decisions early on. So the details at the end are not quite as critical. So there you go. So I'm thinking perhaps now in the last 6 months, you've heard me say this, that I'm reaching a point where it's okay for me to now slow down, not slow down in energy, but slow down in my painting so that I'm really producing my absolutely best work instead of necessarily my fastest work. So even today, the fact that I started this plein air painting yesterday and I'm finishing it today is an evidence of that principle, that I'm painting more slowly. I've talked about that enough probably already, so I won't belabor the point. All right, so I didn't tell you, you can probably tell, I am in my fuzz layer. I saw some interesting comments there already. Kim living good. So nice to have you on board. Thanks for making a comment. I believe that's the first time I've heard from you. Thanks for chatting. And I'll read your chat here in a few minutes. So I'm doing the fuzz layer, right? Did I already say that? And this particular painting gives ample reason why I say those things that most artists call sky holes should not be called sky holes. Because look at what's behind all these trees. The answer is building. So we're going to call them building holes? That's absurd. Anyway, they should be called tree holes. So most of the time I'm going to, from now on, just call them tree holes, because that's what they should be called. Sky holes, unintelligent name. I was not invited to the committee, whoever that was that made up that name, but it was an unfortunate. I mean, even if you're not doing a cityscape, so what if it's a distant mountain behind the tree? Really? Mountain holes? You're going to call it mountain holes? Anyway, I've ranted and raved on that enough. But I am, with the fuzz layer, I am demonstrating for you, not in a fair way, how to do tree holes. In particular, should tree holes be hard-edged or soft-edged? The real answer is both. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to do what I'm doing here, which is do all the soft tree holes first, and then come back and do the more hard edge ones second. Just an option, just suggesting. You don't have to do it that way at all. You don't have to do anything. You know that, right? You don't have to paint. Most people don't, and they can get along just fine. Some kind of insect has started flying around my head just since I started broadcasting. And that's getting a little irritating, hitting me in the face. That's just to prove that I really am plein air painting. When flies get stuck in the paint, that's really proof that it's plein air painting. Okay, so the fuzz layer, soft edges everywhere. Local color, that means realistic color, actual color, the color I want things to be. And very translucent. Some people evidently have some confusion between the two words transparent and translucent. I see it happen all the time. It kind of amuses me a little bit. I think everybody, if you stop and think about it, calm down, slow down, pretty much everybody knows the difference between transparent. At least I'm assuming that when I say one or the other, I assume you know what I'm talking about. What happens, I see when I'm teaching classes or talking with people, they want to say the word transparent. They're thinking transparent, and transparent is in fact the correct word. But all of a sudden, they come up in their sentence to the word transparent. This is what I see happening in people's faces. And all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, that's too easy. It's kind of like, oh, I want to sound a little smarter than that. I want to use kind of a big word. Transparent's too easy. So they kind of, right at the last second, stutter over to translucent, because it sounds a little bit more smarter. A little bit more smarter. Do you like that? Speaking of sounding smart. So the composition here is shaft of light, cone of light, triangle of light, and then a dog leg off to the side. Dog leg, aeronautical term, how do you like that? Yes, sirree, my dad was in the Air Force. Oh, not the one that you're thinking about. He was in the Royal Canadian Air Force. And what did he do in the Royal Canadian Air Force? Yeah, we're kind of proud of this. He was in the band. In fact, it's quite a charming little story. We didn't hear much of his experiences in the war at all. He was like all of his generation. All those people came back from the war, and mum's the word. They said hardly anything about it. He was literally on his death lazy boy chair before he really began to tell us some of his stories. I think he was, let me see, he was born in 1920. So he was, Canada entered the war, and same as England, of course, 1939. So he was 19 or 20 years old. Young lad in Toronto, Canada. And he had no, I'm not sure, what's the word? No letters of introduction. No. He just went and signed up. Or more particularly, he went and auditioned. 19 or 20-year-old kid. He just marched up, not marched, but he just walked in to wherever the band, the Air Force band leaders were. Said, I want to play in the band. This sounds like a good idea to me. Sounds better than being, I want to be a waist gunner on a B-23. I might not be here today if he had signed up for that. Anyway, so they said, what do you play? And the fact was he played all kinds of things, but his main thing, he played in a trio with his two brothers. One played trumpet, one played trombone, and he played euphonium. It's a baritone for you non-musicians. Well, that doesn't even, you non-musicians, you don't know what a baritone is either, do you? Anyway, and he passed with flying colors, of course, because he was a bit of a prodigy. In fact, years ago, I'm just rambling here, there's absolutely nothing to do with art, but I got to talk about something while I'm painting. There was a commercial on TV. I forget what they were advertising, but it was hilarious, and it made me think of my dad. It showed a young black boy in the 60s, maybe the early 60s, walking down the street, and he looks in one store window, and there's a accordion in there. Does anybody remember this commercial? It was hilarious, especially to us musicians. There was an accordion for sale, and the little black boy stood there looking at the accordion, thinking. Then he turned around, and right across the street was another store. And it had an electric guitar in the window. The boy looks at it, he kind of nods and walks in. And then they give his name. The little boy's name was Jimi, Jimi, Jimi Hendrix. And the closing caption was, "Whew, that was close." that was funny. So here's the story of my dad. He didn't turn around and pick the electric guitar, or in this case, the violin. He did go into the store and picked out a what? A what? A euphona what? A euphonium. So he did not go on to become a famous musician, because I'll warrant nobody in the sound of my voice has ever heard of a famous euphonium player, no matter how good they are. We like to say he was officially the best euphonium player in Canada. Even that sounds funny, doesn't it? I mean, there were only 4 of them, and he was the best. That is not true. He played a bunch. By the way, we have pictures of him in the Royal Canadian Air Force Band in Torquay, England, on VE Day. We have other pictures of him as well, but in this case, and in that picture, he's playing trombone. Okay, now why did I can't even remember why I got off into that long story about my dad. Oh yeah. It's because I called this a dog leg, and that's an Air Force term. So my dad told me what a dog leg was when I was but a child. I'm good. And so he finished up the war. He was slated to become the conductor of the Royal Canadian Air Force Band. But then the war ended and they sent everybody home, so he never did become the conductor of the Royal Canadian Air Force Band. There. Isn't that sweet? Doesn't it just touch your heart? Some sweet family stories from my childhood. He also played upright, I'm still talking about him. He also played upright bass in the jazz band. And piano when it was needed. Okay, I think maybe, oh, I'm almost done with the fuzz. I just realized I want to do some fuzz on the people as well. So I can put some fuzzy color in their clothing. And let's start out with just some blue, nice safe blue. Two people here walking away from us. Yeah, blue. Let's do a little more blue. Back here, there's a woman walking toward us. Blue is a very, very, very common color for people. So is white and black. Black and white. But when I'm doing people in paintings, I don't typically do realistic clothing color because most of it would be black and white. Black clothes and white clothes. So I expand that a little bit. No, I started last night and quit and came back and just started a few minutes ago. Thank you. My first, very typical for me. The first I do a bunch of red clothing. I mean, either red or blue, and then the converse of that. Very, very typical. I need to clean these brushes now. How are you guys doing? Are you from here? Where are you from? Yeah.
We've been in Chapel the last 5 years.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, welcome to Raleigh.
What about yourself?
I've been here 30 years. Yeah.
You do a lot of landscaping.
Yeah, I do. And at one time we had one kid at UNC, one at State, one at Appalachian, and one at ECU, all at the same time.
That makes a good family.
Yeah, that's right.
And you probably have an appreciation of this area.
Yeah, I do.
Your kids everywhere.
Absolutely. Especially on a beautiful evening like this.
Yeah, this is
So where's this painting gonna go?
Well, right now it's got a $500 bid on the clipboard. If you'd like it, you can up that. And somebody placed that bid before I even had anything on the canvas last night. No, somebody knew my work. Yeah, thanks. So you?
set up right here. Or what?
No, I go all over town and everywhere. Nope, just when I get the chance, come downtown and paint. Yeah, I thought I was going to paint that way, but I got here and those trees were just too thick, so you couldn't see anything. And then I saw this lovely view, so decided to go with that.
How did you start painting?
My dad was a good painter, so by the time I went to kindergarten, I thought I was an artist. Yeah, so it's been my whole life. Yeah.
It is such a skill. It's such an art. And
Pardon?
it's such a skill. It's such an art.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thanks. Have a good evening. All right. I'll do one more bit of fuzz here, hinting at some flesh tones. So I really I started the fuzz thing. The fuzz layer became official. I don't know how long ago now, 3 years maybe. And it actually started when I was painting on this street, as a matter of fact. But I was painting people. So the fuzz layer, I stumbled on it. You know, I think a lot of the best things that happen in your painting journey are just sort of accidents, you know? Like, wow, that's a good idea. You try something and it works, you know? And like what I just did to the clothing there is how I started. I just fuzzed in color on people's clothing and I went, wow, that worked really well. All right, whoops. I've got sun, you can see sun shining in my face because it's bouncing off a glass building. Oh, it's in your face too. This is bouncing off a glass building. So tell you what, I'm going to read the comments. Hang on. Ouch. That is damaging to the ears. All right, I'm going to take a little break, but let me read your chats first, and then I'll take just a little break. Kim Living Good. Dan, just want to say hello and thank you for sharing your wonderful painting, your time with us. Can't stay, we'll watch playback. You're very well. Thank you for your service. You're very welcome. Artist Ross, good to hear from you again. Hello, Susan. Yeah, I try not to cuss when the camera's on, Susan. I don't always succeed, but I try not to. Artist Ross, nice to have temperature in the mid 80s for a change. Looks like you found a shady seed. I did, shady, and it was supposed to be a high of 95 today. In fact, I think it was, but it has cooled down considerably. Hang on, more noise. Woo! You could hear that. You could hear that clipping, couldn't you? Overriding the microphone. Blank canvas. Is it Jason? Forgive me, blank canvas. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe you don't want us to know. Hey Dan, what are you using to clean your oil brushes with? Gamsol. Yeah, Gamsol, which, as far as I understand, is the least toxic of those kind of solvents. 102. No, you're serious. In New Jersey? Wow. Oh, there's my wife. Hello, Nancy. She is up in Williamsburg. Did I pronounce that well enough for you? She's in Williamsburg, Virginia, helping her brother. Thanks, sweetie. Nice to hear from you. Miss you. Can't wait to get home tomorrow. Thanks for watching. And Sharon London. Hi, Dan. Wonderful painting. Thank you very much, you guys. All right, short break here. I won't be gone long, I promise. I'm going to wait until that light changes because I can't see anything. Honestly, I look at my canvas and I get sun right in the eye. All right, so probably 10-minute break. That'll give me a chance to look and think about things, and I'll be back. Thanks. Bye. All right, hello friends, welcome back, which I understand. For most of you, that was a split-second break, and welcome back to me. All right, we know how this thing works. All right, last night, yesterday evening, I took a picture of this couple and their baby. And I was tickled to get a picture of a couple with a baby stroller. So I'm going to draw them. I've decided to and this is getting pretty common after the fuzz layer. Pretty common for me to do pencils. I've discovered if I do pencils before the fuzz layer, it's all for naught because almost all the pencil gets obliterated while I'm doing the fuzz. And again, forgive me, you regulars, you hear me say this all the time. Two purposes for the pencils. It's very unconventional to use pencils on top of an oil painting. Like there's an old tradition of doing charcoal underneath an oil painting, like my daddy did. But that is not what I'm doing here. The pencils that I'm doing, two purposes. One is, of course, to help capture the realism, a believable image. But the greater reason is just the texture. I just like, and when I started this, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't know if it was going to be something that that stuck around, or was this just a momentary experiment that would go by the wayside. Well, quite the contrary. It's actually grown on me quite a bit, so that I'm using noticeably more pencil than I used to. And I've told this story before, but one of the things that helped me conclude that, in fact, I really did like the look and the feel of scratchy pencil on top of the smushy paint, as I like to say it, was that twice now, at least. One of them was in Raleigh, another one was in Scottsdale, Arizona, in a gallery. And in both cases, I was looking at another artist's work. And in both cases, these two that I remember, the artist whose work I was looking at, they used pencil very much the way I'm using it, kind of a scribbly, draw early, half realistic, half messy. They used pencil in some of their paintings and not others. And so, I didn't have any dog in that fight. I wasn't wondering if I was doing something. I was just looking. And I discovered that I definitely preferred, in both cases, I preferred those people's work that had the pencil in it. So that was a big encouragement. It's like, okay, so it's not just me. I'm not just crazy. There is something that's really hitting me about that. So that was a lucky break. Last night, if you were watching this couple, I had them coming toward us, and then in one serendipitous flash of insight, it dawned on me, oh, wait a minute, that would look better if they were walking away from us. First of all, they're pretty big in the painting, right? So if I turn them around, they don't suck up quite as much psychological attention, which is good. And secondly, if I turn them around, they actually psychologically, again, sort of escort us, the viewer, into the painting. So that was I'm trying to remember that little trick. I don't remember ever thinking about it before. I'm sure I have. I've thought about people, which way they're facing. I thought about that. But anyway, it was a flash of clarity, I would say. Don't know if anybody just saw that little spat. I don't usually do it with two hands at the same time, but I sure did that time, didn't I? Those marks have nothing to do with realism. That's purely abstract craziness, just like that was. And of course, I haven't done the final edit layer, at which time we will decide, how much of these pencil marks survive, make the cut, so to speak, last into the final part of the painting. You know what? While I'm doing crazy lines, I have these oil sticks here. Let's do some crazy lines. In color. Again, partly because I know I've got the final edit coming. This, likewise, this is even a newer trick for me, a newer practice tradition, and I like only 6 months or something, and likewise, I didn't know if I still don't know if that's going to become a permanent part of my technique, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. This green is really soft. Of all the markers, of all the sticks I have, it's by far the softest. I have to be really careful with it. All right, that's kind of fun. I like that. That's enough. All right, I think that takes us all the way down to final edit. I know I can't talk. Sometimes I can't talk and think at the same time. Oh, and I got sun shining in my eyes again. Hello, Linda Coleman. I'm reading your comment. Beautiful painting. I enjoy your videos. Thank you. Can you please give any suggestions when starting an urban city painting? Yes, certainly. Watch Dan Nelson. Sorry. No. Not exactly sure what you mean, but that doesn't never stop me from talking. cityscapes, I presume, as opposed to like what most people would consider a normal nature landscape. Yes, now this is all stuff that you've heard me say before, but I'll reiterate it. And when it comes to doing a subject that has a lot of architecture, perspective, lines that need to line up, in other words, in that case, yes, do what I did last night, which you can watch me if you missed it last night. Utilize that trick that I talk about very often, which is don't try to get the drawing, don't try too hard to get it absolutely correct the first time. I mean, do the best you can, but make much use of corrections. So slap something down and then look critically at what you slap down and make corrections. I think that's one of the key when you're doing any kind of technical work. I mean, this is even more true for portraits, but cityscapes are a little more fussy than mountains, trees, and so forth. So yeah, make lots of corrections. That's the main thing. If you can figure out where your vanishing point is. Now this requires you having some understanding of linear perspective, and as you may have heard me say, not everybody does. Not everybody's brain is going to work that way. If you are one who does not savvy, and I mean that, when I use that word, I mean sort of a gut level understanding, not just sort of like an intellectual, yeah, I get it. No. I mean, no. I oppose that, as opposed to that. Oh, of course I understand linear perspective. Do you know what I mean? So unless you really get it in your gut, then you have to use other tricks for getting linear perspective right. The two main tricks are looking at your subject matter, holding a brush up, and then translating the angle to your canvas. That's number one. The second is
pretty amazing, man.
Thank you. And the second is the hands on a clock. Compare every angle. Now what typically happens with students anyway is they'll start out well enough doing that hands on a clock trick, and then doggone it, they just get tired and they say, I'm tired. This next line, I'm just going to wing it. And they wing it and it looks like they winged it. and it's really, really off the mark. So yeah, that's one tip. So you have to do perspective. Of course, the most important aspect of any painting, of course, is play of light. The most important, if you will, academic in the hierarchy of principles or elements. I mean elements of design. Composition, in my opinion, is the highest priority. Now the elements of design are line, shape, value, design, texture, composition, color. Did I say them all? There's 7 of them. Line, shape, value, design, composition, color, texture. Yeah, anyway, those. You can just Google elements of design, not to be confused with principles of design, which are things like tension, repetition, rhythm, and so forth. But composition in a cityscape is like everything, like any other painting, is frightfully important. So you've heard me talk about this painting a couple times. I basically got the composition has to do with light and dark areas. Mid-tone, 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 light shaft. That's the composition with a foot going off to the side. So that's my composition here. And play of light. So of course that's what you see all over this painting, is light playing. I'm mixing up now a very pale yellow, warm yellow. It's not at all, for those of you, if you're new, when I say yellow, I very, very, very rarely mean Hansa yellow, lemon yellow, cad yellow light. Those three colors are all virtually identical. They're real light, pale, bright yellow, bordering on chartreuse. Okay, that's not yellow. That's, in fact, you'd be, until you get really savvy with your colors, you'd be better off thinking of that color as green, not as a green, not as a yellow. Anyway, so now I'm doing tree holes. Again, what are traditionally and erroneously called sky holes. And this is very obvious why they ought to be called tree holes, because this is not sky back here, it's a building. Anyway, I talked earlier about should tree holes be hard edge or soft edge? And any teacher who gives you a single answer to that question is, sorry, not a very good teacher. And I've seen the answer in print. I've seen it in print before by ostensibly a good teacher. It says the answer is soft. No, that teacher, I'm sorry, is wrong. And I bet if I confronted that teacher, I could get them to change their mind. They'd go, oh yeah, well that's what I meant. Okay, so I'm gonna, but that's not what they said. Here's the answer. Should tree holes be hard edge or soft edge? And the answer is both. That's part of what gives them their believability, is some of them are very fuzzy and some of them are very hard edge. So that's what I've got right there. I'll zoom in for just a second so you can see that tree, so you can see my shiny forehead. All right, so that tree's not finished, but it's on its way, well on its way. So this is what I'm doing right now, is what I call my final edit layer. And it is definitely tends toward opaque and hard edged. It plays into personally, my weakness, because I am overly given to hard edges in paintings. I don't mean the paintings I like to look at, I mean the paintings that I do. So what I'm doing right now is slightly dangerous for me because it's real easy for me to overdo. Now, in my defense, I'll try to defend myself gently, but in my defense, I think, why do I like hard edges? And ironically, I think this is ironic, it's because I personally get a kick out of pushing the abstraction, pushing, especially in things like this, like trees and tree holes. In fact, years ago, I went through a season where I used to do my trees very abstract, and they were very much like a stained glass window of all different colors. And I wasn't at all trying to be realistic. I was being the opposite of it. I was being intentionally abstract. But in spite of my delight with abstraction, I concluded that many hard edges was not the best visual solution. So I backed off from that practice long ago now. And try to keep my hard edge strokes, what's the word, imbalance, limited, under control. Which again, it's a little bit hard for me because I just get a kick out of like everything I'm doing right now. I like all these hard edge. I get a kick out of these hard edges. Now, right there, that's probably okay because that might be the epicenter of the focal point of this painting where I've got dark here meeting light there. But I'm saying to myself now, I had better not carry on with that treatment too much further, or I'll be sorry that I did. There will be weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth coming from Phelan Street. You see all kinds when you're downtown. Likewise, there's some real hard edges. Hey, while I'm talking about hard edges, let me show you a trick. So this is one of the things that saves my life, so to speak. After doing too many hard edges, I can pick up a fan brush. Now you can use a chip brush as well, either one, and just soften. Soften all those edges, not all of them, soften up some of those edges. I don't think it was until maybe a couple of years ago I was reading a Richard Schmid book, the Richard Schmid book, which I still have not finished, by the way, which is a real mystery to me. I sure paid enough for that thing. And he uses the term edge control. Now that certainly is a good description of what makes, a big part of what makes Richard Schmid's paintings so beautiful is his edge control. But I'd never heard that term before. But you know the way it goes. Once you notice something for the first time, and it seems like after that I began hearing it here and there around. So now I have indeed. So edge control is a thing. And that's part of the reason why I have a distinct fuzz layer in my technique. Because it helps me control my edges. One of the things you really want to do when you're doing a crowd of people like this, a small crowd, you really do want to have soft edges and messy painting, because that actually helps convey the notion that they're moving. And part of what, by the way, what caught my eye to this scene when I first showed up yesterday afternoon was this shaft of sunlight hitting the sidewalk and street. It goes right along that. Probably all over in your way, aren't I? Sorry about that. There's more I'm going to do up there, but I'm going to take a detour for a minute. Let's come down and work on this couple that are close to us here. So I'm trying to mix up some of this color, and it's very hard to identify the color because it's a whole mixture of stuff. Okay. Hello, I'm good. Good to see you again. Yep.
Pastor, get more dollar. Can you have more dollar, please? Please.
I need to see if I've got one.
Please. Please.
Not in
Beg you,
not in that pocket. Yeah, yeah. I can. Bless you. I think he's using that title as a weapon. Surely, if I call him pastor, he has to give me $1, doesn't he? Because aren't all pastors like soft touches? Oh boy. I don't like that shape very much, but that's right. Don't panic. I say to myself, don't panic. You're a trained professional. You can handle this. Do not try this at home, you know. I'm a trained professional. So I'm mixing up some dark stuff over here. There we go.
Yeah, that's right.
A little better. That'll do for the moment.
You guys should be.
So weird, I've got this dull green on my brushes. Hang on just a minute, I'm gonna plug in my phone. Oh yeah, her head is too big. That's almost always the case. I almost always end up shaving down these people's heads. Yeah, so I've got this lovely warm dull green on my brushes. more tree holes now. This time, doing the dull greenish building. By the way, one of the things I'm going to do with these trees, because they're such a huge part of this image, I'm going to do at least 2 more layers, 2 more stages or phases on these trees. I'm going to come in here and do dark foliage. Again, another layer of dark, mostly transparent leaves, and then return and do light again. So 2 more layers on these trees, which is pretty typical if trees are up close, as they are in this painting. They need a little more treatment. They need a little more treatment than trees that are less important. But trees are, as you can see, really significant in this particular painting. I get to paint a flag in this painting. Way up here at the top. One there and one there. American flag and I think it's a state of North Carolina flag over there. Ironically, it's not flying today. Evidently they don't fly the North Carolina flag on Saturdays. Must be a law I don't know about. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thanks.
Can't do all that without my shoulder.
Good for you.
Take it easy. Gotta stay cool out there.
I'm going to pick up a rag, and I like this green streak, but just a little bit too much of a good thing, so I'm going to blend it in a little bit. Hello, Barbara. Yeah, that was a cute statement indeed. I am feeling the need of a little break here because I feel like I've got my face too tight. Let me do just a little bit more and then take a break. I'm standing too close to my canvas for too long. I need to stand back and take a few minutes and think about it. instead of just plowing ahead. Too easy to make mistakes when you plow too many minutes in a row. But the tops of these stairs, the tread it is called, the part of the stairs that faces the sky is called the tread, and they are like, oh hey, I'm sorry you guys, let me take a second and turn you guys around. I did this last night several times, but I know not all of you were watching that, so let me turn you around and let you see the scene that I'm painting. Hi, Murray. You just log in and now I need a break. Hi, Marcus. Sorry about that. Hey, Jane, it's not too bad. It was a high of 90. It was 95 when I got down here, but something has happened because I don't think it's over 85 right now. Yeah, it was 95 and the heat index was 107 when I headed this way. But that's more or less. If you cut off, hang on a second. There, whoops. About like that. There you go. That's about what I'm painting right there. Without my hand in it, of course. Anyway, so that's the scene. It's lovely out here right now. Let me just turn you around just for fun. That's looking north up Fayetteville Street. If you were with me last week, I was doing a 6x6 painting looking that direction, but I was standing about 4 blocks from where I'm standing now, so you won't recognize me in those buildings. So there you go. I gave you a tour. Oh wait, I'll give you more. Isn't that pretty? Oh, hang on. Isn't that pretty? So this is the Federal Building. Post office. During our last break, I went and looked at the fine print. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It was built in 1874, which just as I reflected on it, it's like, wow, it's only a mere 9 years after the Civil War. Now, unlike many southern cities, and especially in reference to Sherman in particular, Raleigh was not ransacked and damaged the way so many other places were. But still, to build a building of that significance, of that size, not during Reconstruction, just interesting to me. Probably only to me, sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna do something else before I take a break. So hang on. So Marcus, hang on, I'm not taking a break yet. I want some of this light, some of this glow to come further down. Oh, and that needs to be warmer, a little bit orange. There we go. So I just want, again, what drew me to this scene yesterday afternoon when I first got here, and was confirmed when I came back today, I'm happy to say, was just this evening glow, early evening glow, the secondary light, the reflection on everything. Yeah. All right, so I think that's okay for a while. I'm probably closer to finished than I realize. That would be nice. It's always nice to discover you're closer to finished than you thought. I don't relish the thought of a long, late night tonight. Got home at about 11 o'clock last night. That was not too bad, but don't want to make a habit of it. All right, but it is a good time for a break. So let me do that real quick, and I won't be gone long. 10 minutes, I would think. Sit down, walk around, take pictures in this beautiful evening light, and I'll be back in a little bit. No, this is not a commission. Oh, hey, just for fun, I'll show you. Thanks for asking, Barbara. No, this is pure spec. I put together this, I've had this for years. I just modified it. I added Dan Nelson, the painter of Raleigh, silent auction. and I have one bid, but it's for $500. And that lady, she made that bid when I was setting up yesterday afternoon. She said, "Ooh, Dan Nelson, do you have a clipboard?" And she bid $500 when the canvas was completely blank white, didn't have a thing on it. So it pays to have fans. And I'd already been thinking as I was driving down here, what's the least I would take for this painting? And I thought, probably $500. Maybe I should have said $1,000. And no, never mind. I'm not going to get that spooky. All right, little break. Anything else? Sorry for the break, but I need it, and I need to get away from this. Thanks. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Bye-bye. I'll like 10 probably. Bye. Hello. All right, I'm back. Ready to start painting, and I decided to sit down. Boy, it's beautiful out here tonight. Oh my goodness. I love it. That's one of the things I like about plein air painting, just the energy of being there on location. Delightful breeze and just the light. Oh my goodness. Not to get maudlin, I promise. But I think these are the kinds of moments that I will think about if I have time to think on my deathbed. As I go back in broad terms over my life. So I'm not saying that to be maudlin. I'm just saying that to remember to drink in the moment while it's happening. So I'm drinking. Sounds more like inhaling, doesn't it? So I'm inhaling. All right, so I'm doing a thing I mentioned just a little while ago. When it comes to doing trees, this up prominent, this up close. Doing leafy shapes. Oh, by the way, what I'm showing right now is a good trick for some of you to give the impression of leaves without getting into Bob Timberlake territory of painting leaf. Hey man, sorry, I'm broadcasting, but I can talk.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to
That's quite all right.
I kind of perform here.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, right here?
Right here.
Like on Saturday nights?
Every Saturday and Friday.
Well, I was here last night. Where were you? So you missed
work.
last night.
Yeah, I missed last night. But I can find a different spot. I was just gonna. The music
What do you do?
I dance.
Oh, and you play music and dance to it.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're wondering if you're going to disturb me?
Yeah.
Like, can you do it right there instead of here?
Yeah. I can do it right there. I just didn't want it to be
you know what?
loud.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha. What's your name?
My name's Terrell.
What? Terrell?
Terrell. Yeah.
Man, Terrell, my hat's off to you. Any man that comes out here and performs on the street.
Really?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's kind of what I'm doing. It's a little, a little more subtle.
Good. I was looking at
So,
it.
no, I will love it. I'm sorry I'm in your spot.
No.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no,
The only problem I will have, it's not your problem, it's my problem, is that you're playing copyrighted music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So YouTube will flag me, they'll send me
Really?
but here's what I can do, and I will do this. I can unplug my microphone. So now I'll just be broadcasting silent. So all you guys. Terrell here is going to dance. I'll turn him your way sometime when they. And yeah, I'll just need to unplug.
Okay. Cool.
Do you take well, how long are you going to do it? Now till midnight or what?
Yeah, I usually be out here all night until
Yeah.
midnight.
Yeah.
Like around 11 or 12, I usually leave.
Do you take breaks like between songs or?
It depends on how I feel.
Yeah.
'Cause I just like.
Good for you.
I bring a big
And you do this every Friday and Saturday night?
Every Friday and Saturday.
Do you have a permit?
I do, but it's at home, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay, but you went to the whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I used to do that, and I still will. But in fact, believe it or not, I started 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I started an organization in Raleigh for street performers. The reason they have rules is because of me. Now,
So you probably heard of us then, because I'm part of a group called the Raleigh Rockers.
yeah,
Now I'm with them.
fantastic.
So
Good for you.
kind of do this on my little.
Good
when I'm
for
not doing
you.
anything.
Good for you. No, good for you, man. Yeah. Let you do what you need to do. Let me worry about the copyright.
Gotcha.
I bless you.
Thank you.
That's good. Good. I'm gonna get some. You heard that. I'm tickled. I'm not tickled because I have to turn down my sound. But I'll gladly do it for his sake. You know what? I think I overdid it. So this is an example of over fastidious, too much of a good thing. And it's often not difficult to undo. Often not difficult to undo over fastidiousness. So I'm going to use two techniques. One is, as you saw, I was scratching with the handle of my brush, and then I'm fuzzing. I'll keep that. I'll no doubt use it some more. Then fuzzing with the real end of my brush. Now, you know, don't you? Absolutely, you do. That anytime you put dark on your canvas, like I'm doing right now, anytime you put dark on your canvas, that means you are not done, right? Because dark is just the wind up, the get ready, the get set, the 1, 2, 3, the go, the follow through, the pitch, if you will, is the light. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And evidently my music, which you probably can't hear at all, is all right, is going to get turned down here in a minute when Terrell starts his music, which will be much louder and more energetic than my music. All right, so I've mixed up a medium yellow gold, and here we go again. Oh, I mentioned this last night, but it bears repeating. Enough of sitting down for a while. It bears repeating that another thing that attracted me to this scene is what I'll call now punctiliar light. So here's my famous, or not famous, anti-famous, infamous quote on the subject. The human eye is inexorably drawn to punctiliar light, and that's what I'm doing more of right now. More little bits of light. Now the danger is, and this, somebody coined this phrase. I forget now if it was Toby or Tony. If you do the tree holes poorly, they become tree dots. Or if you do sky holes poorly, they become sky dots. So it's a tricky business, and one of the key antidotes, one of the key do this and you'll be okay isms for tree holes is make sure you have enough of them that are fuzzy. Because if you have too many of them hard edged, you may end up with sky dots, or what I call tree dots. So make sure you've got enough. I've got some flags up here I have yet to paint. I really enjoy painting the American flag. I live in the United States, so I have lots of occasions to paint the American flag. All right, I'm going to turn off my music because I'm about to get musiced out here. And for once, my music was actually playing very well without stopping.
So that's right. I still enjoy being downtown,
Even when it means you have to share the sidewalk with a breakdancer, which is what I'm assuming. I have yet to do some brighter and more hard edge tree holes over here in the sky. I'm getting to that. Hey, shout out to Jane Grayson, my dear old friend, who gave me a super chat donation of $19.99. Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I wasn't looking at my screen earlier and didn't catch it till way too late. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you, my dear Jane. Shall we tell them, Jane? How many? Should we tell them our secret, Jane? Jane owns several. I would be amiss to try to guess how many, but several of my abstract paintings. She was a part of the first time I did a painting abstracts live on Facebook. It was at the time, and she. Okay, I turned my music off. Okay. We're good. I'll turn. Okay, so I'm going to unplug my mic here in a few minutes because Terrell's going to turn on his music, which is copyrighted. So, all right. But I will enjoy his music and his dancing and his company out here on the street. So that'll be fun. Okay, so our eyes are irresistibly drawn to punctiliar light. Now, the reason I don't say points of light, I explained this last night, I'm repeating myself. The reason I don't call it points of light is because if I say points of light, many of you are going to think of the sources themselves, like stars, candles, Christmas lights, and so on. And you're going to think that I'm saying our eyes are drawn to things that are light. And that's true too, but that's not, see, this is punctiliar light here. Blah, 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 blah. All right, I have to unplug my sound, so I bid you a fond adieu. I'll bring you in later as soon as I can. Bye-bye. gang. Quick little break in the am I turned on here? Yeah, I think I am. Quick little break in the music, just to say, so I'm unplugged. My mic's unplugged because I've got copyrighted music going on next door. But it's all for a good cause. So good and talented young man next to me dancing. And but if I broadcast, I'll get another letter from YouTube. So unplug. Bye. All right, I got a little break in the music here so I can talk. You can see what I'm doing, just working all over. This is a flagpole, big, right here, big aluminum flagpole. It's actually quite a bit thicker than I'm making it, but I think this is okay.
Stop. I see you. You ain't gonna stop. I'm late. We the best music.
All right, there's music. Got to turn it down now. All right, bye bye. I'll unplug when I can. All right, I'm going to talk real quick. Try not to get dinged by YouTube. I'm going to take a little break. I just have mainly two things to do. I need a little more light up here, and then broken color. So 10-minute break. Be back in a few minutes. Thanks for watching, guys.